Oh, you've got one of these Chevrolet replacement thermostat houses.
Yeah, that's so it kind of matched the one that was on it, but
it's almost identical.
But that was from Rock Auto. So
I've got a turbo out there with this and a swing valve without a broken EGR pipe. So I'll just be replacing that.
Okay.
Yeah, because trying to fix this and
I couldn't find one of those EGR
you can't.
pipes.
No,
I mean,
you never could buy them.
Yeah.
They were never a service.
Oh, really? You couldn't buy them even
buy the
when
whole
they were new?
turbocharger if you needed it.
I'll be there.
What are your thoughts on that? Okay, see the horsepower of the 2.4 GDI.
So sick.
Yeah.
My name's Austin. This is the Mopar Garage, and we build cool stuff in here. So here's the deal. Tomorrow is like Christmas morning. We're gonna load up our turbocharger and our head into the Hot Rod Kia, go down to Steven Seale at turbochargerparts.com, meet him. He has agreed to do a video with us, which is gonna be awesome. The guy's a certified Mopar legend. If you don't know the name Steven Seale, you at least know the name turbochargerparts.com if you're watching this video. Originally, the plan was to have a shop go through the head and kind of measure everything and just make sure it doesn't need anything and maybe replace stuff here and there if it needs it. But you know what? I decided we're just gonna do it right. Steven's gonna rebuild our entire head for us. They're gonna do a full rebuild, valves, valve guides, valve seals, seats. I mean, a full rebuild on this thing. Might as well have the thing gone through and done right? So, Steven's a pretty modest guy. I don't know if we're gonna get into his car collection during this video. I hope we do. It is insane. He is a really cool, really modest guy, and I think you guys are really gonna enjoy this video with him. So we're gonna get these things ready to go. I've got to pull the intake and exhaust manifold off the head. I've got to pull the bracket off the turbo, and these things are gonna go get loaded into the Hot Rod Kia and taken into Central Georgia to go meet Mr. Steven Seale. So feels like Christmas morning. We got our workbench all set up already, the old cowboy workbench. Let's get going on this thing. All right, turbocharger and head are both loaded up into the Kia. We will see you guys in the morning. Well, we're a couple hours in and drive to Atlanta. Cassie's with me. I don't know why, but she came. Sun's coming on up. Got the old Kia wound up. I actually really like this thing. You know, when I bought it, I was pretty bummed out to buy it. I bought it for work, and I love this thing. The thing is sweet. You like the Kia?
So good.
That's so good. I think it's because I'm used to driving all junk lifted Dodges, but the thing handles good, goes down the road good. I like the Kia. Anyway, we'll check back in with you in a couple hours. It's about 8 in the morning right now. We're supposed to be there about 11, so we'll see you then. This thing. It ain't your typical 4-cylinder here. It's like 2200 RPM at 77. You know, when I think of 4-cylinders, I think of something that's wound right out to go highway speed. Of course, this thing's got 40 more horsepower than this coveted Shelby we're rebuilding. What are your thoughts on that? Okay, see the horsepower of the 2.4 GDI.
So sick.
Yeah. She's a big car girl.
Well, I'm here with Mr. Steven Seale of turbochargerparts.com. He was gracious enough to have me down so that I could drop off the head and the turbo for the Shelby. And we're just going to kind of briefly go through what the cost is with this head on what I'm going to do with it, and kind of what some other options are that you can do with yours. So on my head, I'm looking to just keep it stock. Car's only got 91,000 miles on it, but I did notice some wear in the cam. I mean, is that part of what we do? I mean, I don't, maybe that's just acceptable. This was the one that I felt had the most.
Well, let's just start from the beginning, I guess. Our service includes a complete rebuild and machining service. We completely strip the cylinder head down, chemically clean it, pressure test it, looking for cracks on it, under the assumption that it doesn't have any objectionable cracks in it. They are known for cracking between the valves, which is not necessarily the kiss of death for one. But if it passes the pressure test, then we'll machine it after it's been thoroughly chemically cleaned and glass beaded. So it'll look like a brand new cylinder head when you get it back. It gets a complete 3-angle valve job, not a 1-angle, 3-angle valve job. And we also back cut the valves too for a little extra flow, even on a stock head. We don't do any porting or polishing or cleaning up in the bowl area on a stock cylinder head. We take all the fittings out of it, and of course all the sensors and things. If the cam is worn, we'll replace the cam. And to your point earlier, I see this lobe here has got a little bit of wear in it. Even though it's still serviceable, I've got good replacement slider cams that we'll replace it with. The slider followers, they're at 91,000 miles. They're going to be too worn to reuse. You could reuse them, but if they're worn extensively, then what will often happen at idle, when the lifters are not pumped up all the way, it'll spit a rocker arm out, and then you'll lose a cylinder.
Okay.
And it can damage the head if it spits one out and gets lodged in there in just the wrong position with the cam turning. It can break the cam or break the head, so we don't want that. So more than likely we'll be replacing the sliders in it too. So that's all part of the service. Price on a standard rebuild with all those, which also includes replacement cylinder head bolts, replacement intake manifold bolts, replacement exhaust manifold studs with our custom copper nuts. And we use a positive clad valve stem seal instead of the Viton valve stem seals, Austin. And of course new seals on the front and the back. So when it comes back, you'll have everything you need, including Fel-Pro Permatorque head gasket to install it, except your toolbox and the fluids that
awesome.
You need. So, and our price on that build is currently $599 to do that service, and that includes the return shipping to you. That's there. So we think it's an all-around outstanding deal. We've been doing these cylinder heads for 35 years. And so we keep all the parts that we need, all the valves, the springs, etc. You know, we're doing them right. So it's not like just any old machine shop that might have done one of these 10 years ago. You know,
right.
We've done 10 of these in the last 2 months. You know, for example.
Right.
So,
right.
So we know these heads really, really well, and if there were anything wrong with it, we've got what we need on hand to take care of it. So we're real proud of our work. It comes with a 1-year warranty on it, which is also an industry leader. Nobody else does that. If you get a 30-day warranty, you should consider yourself fortunate, but we extend it for a full year against cracking. We do put a temperature sensor on the end so that if it gets overheated, you know, we know that it got overheated. But beyond that, you know, I think it's a good quality service that we provide on your head. And we typically don't require core either. So usually when somebody's replacing their head, they're replacing it because it's cracked.
Yeah.
You know, I've got all the boat anchors I need. So.
Yeah.
Right. We just scrap them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of it. So it's kind of an upgrade to a stock head because of the positive clad valve stem seal. You know, instead of just being a piece of rubber stuck over the end of the valve stem. It's an encapsulated rubber seal with a metal case on it and a little spring around the end of it, so it can't pop off. So that's kind of the way that we're doing it now.
Yeah, that's
versus
awesome.
the way they did it
Yeah.
35 years ago. So that's a pretty substantial upgrade, actually, and that'll help it in the future when normally the Vitten seals would have worn out and start leaking and make the car smoke at startup. You won't have that problem.
Which I think is what's going on with mine now. And you guys have been watching a long time. You remember when I first bought the car, it would smoke when you kind of just sat
First
there
car
idling.
idling, yeah.
So yeah, and so that
So that's what we do with those. Some of the options that are available is we can upgrade the standard spring to a heavier duty spring that raises the seat pressure up about 50 to 75 pounds on an open valve. And we also have a beehive or conical spring update. We can go as far as adding titanium spring retainers and locks for even additional performance. So those cylinder heads usually out the door with all of those options run about $1,400 total now.
so totally built head. About
Stainless steel, larger stainless steel valves. They're +1, custom made. We order them in from one of the other Turbo Dodge specific vendors. We work pretty closely with a lot of them on a basis. So we're not just competition to them; we're customers too.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
community.
and I don't really picture them as being really competition. We have our things; they have their things. And we do try to work together and refer each other customers on a friendly basis. So, and I like that about our little community, and I promote their businesses on my website too. So I'm not an army of one in that regard. So there are choices available. So that's kind of the thing. We've got them all the way from bare, which is about $300 or $400 for a bare head if you're just looking for one to build, take to your machine shop, to a stock head, which is about $599, I think it is, with all those features we talked about.
Which is a bargain, because when I looked at a local shop to just basically go through it and maybe not even replace everything, just kind of check it, replace the little stuff that it needs, you were looking $350 to $400. So it's
You
a
don't
really
get the
good
bolts,
deal.
the gaskets.
I mean, even down
Custom
to checking the
seals.
camshaft.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer, really, because when you go to put a head back on, last thing you want is to deal with,
Anything.
I skimped over this and now I got to pull the head back off. So
Right. So we're kind of a one-stop shop in that regard. We try to give you everything that you need to do it right the first time instead of the second time.
That's awesome. I love it. And the turbochargers, we got the Garrett turbo on ours. You guys remember the broken EGR pipe that crosses over. You're able to make do with it, repair those, or?
Well, we don't repair the broken pipes, we replace them.
Okay.
Usually they break because they've gotten rusted and they've been thermally cycled so many times, the metal's brittle, and they just don't typically repair. So we've got good used ones that we just take off old worn out turbochargers and replace your existing one. But we do completely disassemble it, chemically clean it, brush it up, real nice. Make sure the EGR is working on it, which is a problem. Of course, replace the bearings and the piston seal and everything inside the turbo cartridge, and send that off to be balanced. We use G-Pop Shop as our preferred vendor for balancing our cartridges, and they send them back to us, and we do the final assembly on it, box it up and ship it back to you ready to go. So.
Awesome, cool. Well, perfect. I think this is a no-brainer. You guys know I kind of went back and forth between, are we going to go full out on the head and do it right? Are we trying to slap the head back on just the way it is? Or what are we going to do? Hey, with it smoking when I bought it and that kind of thing, let's just go through the head and make it all right. And I think Steven Seale is the guy to do it. So I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me out.
Have a good day.
Well, that was cool. Steven was gracious enough to invite us into his house, and that's a gentleman who knows some things about 80s Mopars. Like, if you think you know things about 80s Mopars, like me, you don't know things about 80s Mopars compared to this guy. awesome visit. A lot of the cooler conversations that happened off camera, we wanted to keep private, you know, about his car collection and the cars he has access to and stuff like that, which totally understand. But it was just cool. I mean, before we shot that video, we talked for like an hour about everything, really. I mean, and what an impressive stock of parts. I've been looking all over for the mount for the transmission, which is this little shock. And I mentioned it, and he just hands me 2 of them and says, here. So really cool, really friendly guy. And as you guys can tell, our head and turbo are in the right hands. I'm sure Cassie enjoyed all of the car conversation. The whole, yeah, she loved it. But it's in the right hands. He does that stuff and only that stuff, so it's going to be super specific versus some generic shop that could rebuild this stuff but doesn't know the nuance of it. So I'm super excited. We got plenty to do. We got about a month now until that stuff comes back, so we got plenty to do while it's gone. So we'll just be pumping the videos out, waiting for the head and turbo to get shipped back to us. We're cutting it close. If it's a month until that stuff comes back, we're cutting it close on the Valentine's Day goal, but we'll at least be darn close. So appreciate everyone watching. Hopefully you enjoyed that little insight into probably the biggest name in 80s Dodges. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We'll see you on the next one.